There are 4 rules you can never break if you want to hire an employee in your contracting business successfully. In fact, one of my clients who knows these rules broke rule number 4 in 2021 and almost went bankrupt because of it. So in this video, I'm going to cover all 4 so you don't make any of these mistakes that could potentially force you to close down shop. Rule number 1, you must be booked out 2 months in advance. This is by far the most common one I see. And the funny thing is, it's the most intuitive. But I see contractors day and night breaking this rule. So here's what happens. They are booked out like maybe a month or 2 in advance, and then they get an employee, and it's like an amazing individual. We'll talk an A+ employee. They hire him on. But they completely discount that when you hire on a full-time employee and you're full-time on the tools, that the amount of work you have gets cut in half if you stay on full-time. So if you have full-time work that's booked you up for like a month, when you hire somebody, all of a sudden you only got a couple of weeks worth of work. And now you're scrambling to try to find some work. Or like some contractors that I see, they run out of work. There's not enough work for them to do. So then the contractor takes these guys and has them do renovations on his own house. And so we need to avoid that. If you're going to go through all the trouble of finding, hiring, paying, and training a guy, and you don't have that consistent work coming in, well, at least you should have a buffer to make sure that these guys can be paid. It is by far one of the most important things that before you hire anybody, make sure there's a buffer of work. Because if that person you're going to hire on, even if you're not going to be full-time on the tools, you might need at least a month and a half, 2 months to figure out how to sort your marketing so that these guys can stay busy. We want to build a team. So it starts up with this guy and then we get more guys. But that is easily one of the first things that I would recommend that you start looking at. Now, I will make a disclaimer that generally applies for like most trades that are, if your ticket price is anywhere from like $5,000 plus. But if you're running a business that's like lawn care or snow removal, and your average ticket price is like below $500, if you're booked out a month in advance, that's usually a good enough window to go and figure out how to market and find the work. But it's imperative that you are booked out with work before you hire on any employees, hoping that a job will go through, or hoping that that job in the pipeline or the customer that said, yeah, they're in, but they never gave you a deposit or a signature, that doesn't count. We need to have actual work booked up at least 2 months, specifically if you're a general contractor. And if you're running like a small ticket business around $500, you must be booked out at least a month in advance. Number 2, you need to have the right systems ready and prepared for them to come in. Obviously, all of us are going to hire the best of the best. That's what we're going for. Now, really put yourself in their shoes. If we hired somebody the best of the best, and consider you went to go work for somebody else, and you're pretty good at what you do. And the first couple of days on the job, the owner just tells you, oh, just here, sit down, watch this video, and just go do it. You should know what to do. Just go do the job. How would you feel about that? Or you come into the business and you have no idea how payroll works, no idea about safety metrics, no idea how to use the software, no idea how to communicate, no idea how to talk to the other parts of the team, no idea how to do the trade specifically designed to what the owner wants. What you're going to be left with is a sense that the owner and the person that you went to work for doesn't have their together. And that is just not the right way to get started in a professional relationship. If you're bringing on somebody that you're going to pay, any sort of money, and they're dedicating their livelihood, you got to show them proof that you're competent enough to actually keep them around. And if they're coming into a chaotic business with no systems, no structures, no onboarding process, no training process, no what I call upward mobility maps showing them what they can do to get promoted. If all that is vague, they have no idea how to get paid, how to make more money, how to get promoted, how to learn other skill sets, and that's just kind of pie in the sky, I mean, the person's not going to feel really excited to do their best. In fact, First impressions are everything. And that first week working with you, if your training process basically consists of them shadowing you and you shadowing them, I mean, that's as bare minimum as it gets. And if you do have a good quality employee, that's just not going to sit well with them. And their odds of taking another job offer, flipping and leaving, is going to be very high. So one of the ways that you can spot this is if you find yourself hiring people that only stick around for like 1 or 2 paychecks, and you see that consistently, this is usually a problem that we start looking at, is what do your onboarding processes look like, and how can we create what I call a sense of enrollment where they get to be excited about working with you. And it's all neatly organized for them, whether it's videos or an employee manual. All that stuff is exceptionally important. So that's rule number 2. Rule number 3, and this is one that I think a lot of people underestimate, and that's you have to trust them. Okay? I think if you're anything like myself, I've been burned in the past by bad employees. In fact, in my first year of running my business, my top guy, one day in October, dropped all my tools off at a job site and disappeared. I haven't heard from the guy since. Just gone out of the blue. And so that jaded me. And it made me want to micromanage and make sure that everything's getting done to my specification, which really doesn't work. And here's why. I've seen a lot of businesses actually achieve an adequate level of success. You could potentially make $100,000, maybe $200,000 in profit if you end up hiring people that you just micromanage and don't fully trust. But what will happen is maybe you make money, but you're going to end up paying with your time. And what will happen on top of that is you will, without you knowing it, you will end up training a whole bunch of what I call robots. People who are just waiting for your orders to take action. Employees who are not willing to problem solve and think for themselves. Not because they can't, but because you robbed them of that opportunity. Because you doubt them, maybe question their ability and skill sets, they just stop trying. They're like, oh, you know, Rob, he always wants it done a specific way. Let's just call him. And if there's an employee in the company who is an A player, an A+ employee, and they want to get promoted and actually thrive in your business, you would actually create an invisible ceiling for them that leaves them feeling really demotivated and restricted because they're not getting that sense of control and respect that they feel like they want to deserve. And so it's super important, and this is for myself, I had to do a lot of personal training and personal development to kind of get over this lack of trust. I mean, I had a lot of things happen that gave me good reason not to trust people. And so it's very important to work through that and really start learning how to trust others. Because otherwise, your best players will leave to go thrive somewhere else, and your mediocre players, you'll turn into robots. Rule number 4. And this was the rule that nearly bankrupted one of my clients. And here it is. Make sure that you have the right cash flow to afford the person you're hiring. Our client that comes to us runs a contracting business, is a dad, has kids around the age of 10, and is working on the tools 60 hours a week. He has enough work to go around. He's booked like 4 months in advance, but he's stuck on the tools and is working evenings and weekends. So he needs to hire somebody. The problem, though, is they've never taken the time to clean up their books because it's disorganized. And they have no clue about their finances. They always seem to be robbing Peter to pay Paul. Or they have a line of credit, or even worse than that, they just have no idea what the heck is going on. Their wife maybe manages it, or they just kind of like shoot from the hip, see what's in the bank account, and make commitments from there. When you hire an employee, you are making what is essentially a $4,000 to $6,000 a month overhead decision. you need to have $4,000 to $6,000 in hard cash ready to be spit out, even at your worst month. And so typically when I'm mentioning this to other contractors, this is what happened with a client, is he didn't want to do the work. He didn't want to hire a bookkeeper and organize his receipts and do the tough work of figuring out what the hell is going on with his cash flow. Because what would happen in his business, he'd also, like always, robbing Peter to pay Paul. He would always find himself, the money is in the mail. I haven't invoiced yet. I didn't have time to invoice. And so their money was always in customers' pockets and not theirs. That's not your money. It's only your money when the check clears and it's in your bank account. That's actual cash. Anything else is a promise. And good luck paying employees on promises. You can't pay a mortgage with a promise. You can't. And so it is extremely important that you understand your personal finances. How much are you making? How much does it actually cost you to live? And you need to understand your business finances. Well, how much money comes in? What's my overhead? Why does my bank account fluctuate a whole bunch? What will happen in the next 6 to 8 months if everything stayed the same but I hired an employee? We've had people come to us ready to hire. We do some of this math, and we basically, if they do nothing, their entire profits would be wiped out by hiring this person. And so we'd have to do other things like fix their price, help them with their marketing, increase their booking percentages, and just better run their job sites before hiring anybody. The amount of business owners that are running $3 million businesses that come to us that are clearing around 2 to 3% in net profit is worrisome. And that's because when you're running a contracting business, you're basically running a service business. You're delivering a service. And if you're delivering a service, typically you need people to do so. And people are the biggest expense in a contracting business. So you need to understand if you can actually afford them or not. So those are 4 rules. Make sure you're booked up 2 months in advance. Make sure you have the right systems for them. Make sure that you trust them and work through any sort of insecurities or worries that you have built up from the past. And finally, make sure you have the cash. Otherwise, not following any of these rules I've seen would just lead to maybe a short-term feeling of progress, but a long-term feeling of falling behind, that the dreams you had of running a business aren't exactly what they ought to be. And you find yourself potentially needing to go backwards, which is something I wouldn't want to wish on my worst enemy. So I hope you find this video helpful. If you do, please subscribe for more. And I'll see you in the next video. Take care.